Diddle-a-dum-dum, British Strongman Podcast, episode 61. So, I'm going to build on a bit from last week where I covered yoke, deadlift, and log, going over the main cues that we saw from the recent seminar that Shane and I did, and basically the same errors coming up on the people that we just see on Instagram and see in person. So today we'll cover stone, bag throw, and axle. So, Shane, start us off with some of the stuff that you saw on stones that you see common errors with people that are just simple fixes.
Well, one of the main ones we had was making sure that when they pull the stone into the hip, that it is into the hip and it's not kind of high up on the chest. That's a really common one. I think you get more force when it's pulled into the hip crease, almost similar position to where you put the log to log cleaning. But on the stone, people have a tendency to squat down into the bottom lap position and spend a bit too much time there because they want to obviously readjust the hands, take the hands over the stone. And then what that tends to lead to is when they pull it in, it ends up high on the chest, so that when they're trying to extend upwards, their thoracic spine is being like pulled into flexion. So then they've got to, the last bit for them is to extend the thoracic, which is quite a weak position to be in with like a 160 stone or something. So you need the stone slightly lower so that you don't have that issue. And obviously if you need to get it higher, then you need to follow through with your extension and throw the stone vertical. And that's how you would achieve the height. I think people place it high up on the chest because they think they need to, get that extra height. And I think we've had this chat with Flash, haven't we, actually? Because I think that's one of the things that Flash does. So trying to sort that out on even guys that have been doing it for years and years, it's a bit of a common habit. And then really, other than that, it's just your bog standard basics, with the making sure they're in the center of the stone on the pickup is still a really, common thing people do wrong. And they bend the biceps round the stone. We were talking to Big Mitch about that, weren't we? That he was curling himself into the stone instead of keeping his arms a little more relaxed, long. And what else could there be, really? I guess in terms of a mistake, I guess you could throw this in there. Not training different techniques would be another one I would say is the common thing. Like not training heights, not training one motions, so that when you go into a competition that you've learnt, you want to go into a comp and know what you're going to do with every stone. Like, I'm going to one motion these, then I'm going to transition here, and then I'm going to re-tack and make sure I spend my time on the last one, or whatever the hell your level of performance is for the given stone run. If you just practice loading stones to like a 42-inch platform all the time, doesn't matter if you've loaded a double body weight or something. Most times in a comp, you're going to get a stone run or a stone for reps, and they're the times when you might need to apply a different technique so that you get a better time or more reps within the time limit.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people think that they have to, they should only use certain techniques when they practice certain techniques when they need to. Like, say for instance, if you're doing a light stone run at a comp, they might learn how to one motion, or they might have high platforms coming up at a comp, so then they'll learn how to do it to high platforms. Whereas if you're just cycling these kind of things in your training and you get used to them, there's other benefits that you actually get loads of general benefits from cycling these variations, not just the specific benefits. So what I mean by that is, if say for instance you load into high platforms regularly, like without even if you never do a comp load into a high platform, what you're going to do, what you're going to learn from loading to a high platform is how to extend your body. All this like triple extension stuff that some people might be able to imagine, but other people just think, what the fuck are people on about when they talk about triple extension, blah, 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 blah. You don't even need to know. You don't even need to complicate what your ankles, knees, and hips are doing. If you learn how to load to a high platform without like shouldering it and timing like a bit of pop, even if you don't fucking understand it, like you're going to get a massive benefit from it. And stuff like I really like one motions and doing rep work with one motions light for and doing like say giving yourself little time targets for sets, you know, like say, right, I'm going to do a set 5 in less than 20 seconds or whatever. Because like what you'll do, even if you never use a one motion at a comp, if you're fast at doing one motions and transitioning to the next one accurately, what you'll do is you'll be getting that, you'll be addressing the stone exactly in the middle, like just like second nature, because you'll be going up to a stone and just big breath, squeezing it and trusting your hand position, rather than you see a lot of strong guys that go down to the stone and then they feel around and dilly-dally and shuffle around with the hands. And not only are they wasting time, but they're spending a lot of time in this kind of deep flexion, bent over position that nobody really wants to be in for a long time. So if you can build strength in that kind of flexed over position, but also if you can build skill so you actually spend less time there because you're accurate with your positioning, then that's going to be really beneficial, isn't it? So going to a bit more depth with I think a big thing for like say Mitch for instance, was he was on the pickup, so his hand positioning, and to be honest, most of the guys were the positioning on the stone was pretty good, like they were pretty central. But a big thing that like say someone like Mitch was doing, in my opinion, was he was putting his arms too far around it. So he was like putting his hands really underneath the stone. So he's putting himself in like a really, like to give him, this is a common thing where people give themselves they feel like they need to do it to get the grip around the stone and get more surface area around the stone. But they're putting themselves in this like kind of they're making the pickup harder. They're making it into like a deficit stone pickup, if that makes sense, that people can imagine. So the only way that, like say for instance, just saying to Mitch, oh, try and make your arms longer and try and put your hands a little bit higher on the stone. This is going to be a bit of a mindfuck for people, because they're going to be like, oh fuck, I haven't got enough grip. What if I can't grip it? So the only way to do this is by practicing actually using tacky frequently. I see so many people who like say they train tackless like all the time, and then they'll save tacky till the comp. Whereas actually we talked about it the other day that I think it's a very, very different skill. Like tackless stone lifting is a completely different animal to lifting stones with tacky. And it's not just a case of an ego thing. Oh, I can lift a 120 tackless. Well, yeah, that's fine. But you lifting a 120 tackless stone, you're having to put quite a bit of effort into, or significantly more effort into, squeezing the stone from the ground. Whereas actually, if you just put a little bit of tacky on and you get used to the skill of using tacky, you can actually keep your arms pretty much relaxed and actually just rely on your arms sticking to the stone. So you can put all that energy that you're using on bracing to squeeze on the pickup, you can save that for the extension. And I think this is a game changer for a lot of people if they go and apply that, and they actually just use the tacky a little bit earlier than they need to, assuming that they're going to be training for a comp where you can use tacky, which most comps do. Like actually get better, like a takeaway from this little snippet on the pickup, get better at keeping, like a lot of people say, squeeze the stones. But on sub-maximal stones, like actually get more skilled at keeping your arms relaxed and squeezing your chest less and actually relying on the tacky a little bit more to pick up. And then you'll find that you'll have a lot more energy for the extension.
Yeah, and like we were saying with tacky as well, if you don't spend much time with tacky, then you don't know what you're getting yourself into on comp day, do you? Because like we spoke about, there's so many different types of tacky. And the one thing that I have kind of noticed over my years as a strongman is it almost just depends. Like you say, some people will swear by a certain tacky, others will say it's crap, others will have 3 different tubs for different occasions. But I think the general rule that you need to kind of, stick to is you need to be confident in your tacky, because I think that plays a big role in being able to sit down and grab a stone with pure confidence. You need to know that you've used that tacky, that you're happy with it, that you know it's grippy. And even if somebody else thinks it's shit, if you're convinced you got the perfect tacky on, you can go in confident and let the tacky do some of the work for you. Whereas if you've just put it on comp day, then or even one session before comp day, you don't really know what the fuck you're getting yourself into. And the amount of times I've seen people walk away from stone runs in comps, looking at their looking at everyone and looking at the forearms to basically be like, it's the tacky. And I'm like, well, it is, but also, have you actually practiced with that tacky? Because if it slipped right down your arm and not stuck to the stone at all, is it the tacky's fault, or have you put the wrong tacky on?
Yeah, that's it. So I've kind of been practicing this over the last year with I've got about 8 or 9 different fucking tubs of tacky on the windowsill at the gym, and it's just all depends on temperature. Like you people get fixed on a certain brand of tacky, and change the temperature 5 degrees, and it's completely different. I use I don't even know if you can get hold of it anymore, but I think Vinnie Jones has gone to Cerberus, hasn't he, or something. But basically, I use the old time strength training tacky over winter, when it was like I could see my breath in that unit. All the other tackies were just solid, and that old time strength training tacky was just awesome over winter, like between 0 and 5 degrees. It was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And people say, oh well, you can just bang it in the microwave and bang your tacky in the microwave before you train, when you're training stones. But I'm not a fan of that, because after a couple of minutes it just sets on your arms, and then you lose the grip. So yeah, it makes it more pliable to put on, but realistically, if you're doing say a few sets or a bit of volume, you need your tacky to be at whatever the room temperature is. You need your tacky to be suitable for that condition. And like I said to you, I learned this when I went to the comp in India. I was completely set on that old time strength training tacky, and it was just brilliant in the UK. Always used it, never had a problem. And then I took it to India, and I'd had some other random tubs of tacky in my bag. And then competing in India, whatever it was, 30 degrees ish, I came to set up for the stone run, and it was just like fucking water. Like it literally just, it was dangerous. So luckily I had some other stuff that I thought in my inexperience, oh, that other tacky shit. Whereas actually the other tacky, whatever it was, I can't remember what it was. It was perfect, because I hadn't used it in England that much because it was too hard and too much fucking about. But it was perfect in that temperature. And I had no problem. I finished the stone run, no problem with grip whatsoever. So since then, I've just had a large range. So basically, I'm saying to people, I'm not attached to any certain brands or whatever. Just go and get a few different kind of grades. I think Cerberus. I think it is Vinny who's doing it as like. They've got different competition. They've got different grades. They've got about 4 or 5 different grades, I think. So
yeah, it's Vinny. I seen he posted about it, saying he's got some deal with Cerberus. So yeah, I think it'll be his tackies with their label on that, won't it?
Yeah, and I'm using the stab one from Affinity at the minute, and that's really good. Just because I ran out of the old times strength training tacky. It's in my experience, it makes a little bit more mess than the old time strength one. I find the old time strength one easier to clean, but it's been really good so far. So I like that. Good big tub as well.
Do you know something you've reminded me of? I actually, this is before OSG and all that stuff, but there was a world in Australia I did, a world strongest man under 90, and I was first going into the stones, and yeah, I fucked them up because of my tacky. I came second because you're saying it was like water, and then I'm pulling my tacky out, and I put it on my forearms, and it was fine because we were under this like gazebo thing in the shade, and it was on my forearms fine, and then I kind of had to stand out under the gazebo in the sun. It was like 30, it was fucking well hot, so 35 degrees or something. And I remember walking up to the first stone, and they were getting ready, and I looked at my tacky on my forearm, and it had dribbled all the way down into my hands and was just like dripping on the floor. And then I was like, oh fuck. And then I couldn't load the 160. I just had to load the 160 to win in this stone run. I couldn't fucking pick it up. Yeah, bad times. If only I knew what I knew now. But back then, I used to use fucking what was it called? I think it was just Spider Tack. I think that's like the only tacky there was. So if it didn't work, it didn't work.
Yeah. So this is particularly relevant. Well, it's relevant for everybody, to be honest, who competes in strongman, because like you can go out it was really humid yesterday, and then the other day it was like 4 or 5 degrees. Like there's massive fluctuations with the temperature in our climate, but also for the guys who want to like say compete internationally and go to other countries and stuff, and like you could be going somewhere that's fucking freezing. You could be going to somewhere that's like, if you're traveling abroad, it's likely going to be a different climate, different temperatures and stuff. So be prepared, and don't get too attached to, oh yeah, I swear by whatever brand of tacky, and this one, it's what I've always used. Like, just be open-minded to go and try different things, and accept that different grades of tacky will be better in different conditions.
Just get a couple of different things for your gym bag. You know what I mean? Just get a couple of different tackies, because then if you're on comp day and you pull your favorite out and it's rock hard or runny, you can be like, oh shit, and then just get your other ones out that maybe you don't regularly touch, but at least they're in your gym bag, because they might be a lifesaver.
Yeah. So that's a good takeaway for anybody who's competing in with stones. Like have a couple of different I think the name's actually quite misleading, where they say like training tacky, pro tacky, or whatever, the old time strength, for instance. Because like I used to think, oh, well, maybe the pro will be better in a competition, which I wouldn't necessarily think it would. I think that like the training tacky is perfect if the like say for instance you're competing at 5 degrees in like a fucking freezing unit or outside, like the training tacky, in my opinion, is going to be better than going to a microwave, warming up your pro tacky, warming up the harder stuff that's fucking rock solid, getting that on, like, because you want to find that sweet spot where it doesn't all come off on this, like it applies on you easy enough and doesn't all come off on the stone on your first load. Do you know what I mean, Shane?
Yeah, because the tacky's fucking boiling hot, and then your stone's freezing. So as soon as you grab the stone, it just, so then you go to your next stone, and it feels like you've got no tacky on. You've wasted all your tacky on your first lighter stone, whereas you want to be able to have the grip, you know, towards the end, don't you?
Yeah, but you don't want it to be too pliable because then it doesn't stick as much. So it's finding that sweet spot. So have a bit of a play and be open minded with the tacky.
Oh, and also another little good one. I'm pretty sure everybody in strongman knows this tip, but it's always a good idea to just put a bit of tacky on the top of your hand, isn't it, Josh?
Oh yeah, 100%. Really good. You see so many people who do stone run, and they might get to third or fourth stone. They look like they load it easy, and then they're going and they're looking for the mate or shouting the mate over to. Oh yeah, the mate's holding the tub of tacky for them to dip their hand in and top up. Just put a big fucking clump on the back of your hand.
Yeah, and then if all goes to shit, you can just grab it quickly and not waste time.
That's it. And even when you're training as well, if you're going to do 3, 4, 5 runs or whatever, instead of making a fucking mess in your whatever gym that you train at, just put a bit on you wherever you put it, and then put a bit on the back of your hands, and then just use that as your top up over the course of the session, and then you're not going back to the tub and making a bit less mess and stuff.
We'll keep this as a stone. Let's keep this as a stone thing, because I want to ask you something as well about the stone. Because we may as well just we could do a lot of stones, so let's just keep to it.
Yeah, we'll do bag throwing. Go on.
Yeah, you were mentioning that you've gone away from tacky in the forearm as much and tacky in the hand. So do you want to explain that and your reasons for that? Because I think that's a good.
Yeah. So what I've like done in the past, I've always been like, it's kind of been a bit of a thing because other people do it. So I thought it was the way originally. And then the other thing, basically I'm talking about tacking the forearms. So you see a lot of people, they'll put the sleeves on or whatever, and then they'll cover the sleeves in tacky. And then you use that as the method to grip the stone. Whereas what I've gone to recently is like I've actually ditched the stone sleeves. I find sometimes they were slipping, sometimes they were digging in a little bit, and sometimes I actually like practicing being in pain, and like sometimes I purposely did some fucking sessions without my sleeves before I changed my technique just to make myself hurt. And I don't know, just sometimes I like training like that for some reason. But then I realized that, oh well, actually, instead of making my forearms bleed, because obviously your forearms bleeding, that's what you're kind of using to put in contact with the stone. Whereas what I've done recently is focus more on tacking the hands and using the hands as the grip contact for the stone, and it just feels so much better. And now I don't need to use stone sleeves at all, because it just doesn't hurt my forearms at all, because my forearms aren't kind of the point of contact on the stone. They're still in contact a bit, but they're not producing force. So as a result, I feel like I'm using my hand strength more on the pick. So I can actually, like, if you imagine you're doing like a kind of wrist curl or whatever inwards, you pushing the heel of your hand towards your elbow, down towards your elbow, you can use that grip to actually to help you. Whereas what I used to do was just try and clamp my forearms on. Also, as a result, is your range of motion and your start position improves, because I'm kind of rather than putting my usually on like sub-maximal stones, instead of putting like my hands really low to get my forearms that are covered in tacky in contact with the widest bit of the stone, actually I'm putting my hands on here, so the pickup just feels like I'm in a much better start position, almost like going from, like, say, a mixed grip deadlift to like using straps, like how that subtle change in start position feels a bit better, and that's what it feels like. So the only main disadvantage is recording the sets, like, because you don't want to touch your phone because your hands are in tacky. That's why I've never really used it before. Whereas now the trade,
you pick up. Would you say your pickup is just as strong?
Well, it feels better. That's it.
So the grip's not big. So it's not become, like you were saying before, you might need to build your grip up. Did it start off feeling better straight away, or did you have to build it?
Feeling better straight away, because again, if you use the right tacky, like in my opinion, this, by the way, this is we're talking stones with tacky here. Tackuless stones is a completely different exercise, in my opinion, that we won't talk about today. But stones with tacky is, like, in my opinion, if you get your tacky, you should be practicing getting your tacky right, so you can actually focus your energy on the extension and the drive up, and therefore get your pickup as efficiently as possible by having the right tacky. So basically, if you have the right tacky and your hand positioning is good, you can just relax your upper body. You don't even have to squeeze the stone, in my opinion.
So I think this cue will be good for people with shorter arms as well, because when people, a lot of guys have said to me, like, they can't do stones, they can't pick up certain stones because they're too big, and I think it's because they doing what you were saying before, like trying to do like almost like a deficit pickup, where they're getting they're getting like rolling the stone and trying to get too much under it, so to speak, and then they end up in this position where the shoulders are like in line with the knees, and because they're short as well, the stone's like on the chest already, and they're like eating the top of the stone while they're around it, and it just looks really weak. So, like you say, by lengthening and bringing the shoulders up a little higher and just grabbing with the hands, they're going to be able to, hopefully, as long as the grip's there and the tacky's right and whatnot, they should be able to produce more force. And I think that's a good cue for the shorter peeps out there. I know myself, because I struggle with the larger diameter stones. But again, it was just something that happened for me, that happened naturally at the bigger stones when I used to do strongman. Is I just gripped them a bit different and let the tacky do the work. But since coming back to stones, when I first did them with you in Hickses, I started making that mistake of trying to get too under it. I don't know why I was doing it. I went back and started watching my old videos, and I never used to do it. And then since I bought stones myself, I've kind of gone in between what Josh says. I'm still tacky in my forearms, but I'm putting a lot on my hands and focusing on a lot of grip through my hands and a bit of wrist flexion and whatnot. And for me at the moment, that's feeling like, especially my bicep as well, because I was always like nervous of my bicep. But since practicing it, I don't even think about that anymore. Whereas I remember coming to yours before the last lockdown, and I was doing like 90 kilo pickups, wasn't I?
Yeah.
And being worried about my bicep. And now I'm regularly lapping the 160 at mine and doing like extension sets with it. So it's come on loads for me. So I would definitely recommend to anyone who does that to try and take your hands a little bit higher up and just be more confident with, you know, letting the tacky do some of the work instead of trying to get round it, squeeze it all.
Yeah. And if people are worried about the biceps on the pickup, just practice just tensing your tricep. Tense your tricep to lock the elbow, and if you tense the tricep throughout the pickup, not only will your arm length increase, but it'll act as a brake, so you can't bring the bicep into play to overly flex. And just build your confidence with that, and then as you get confident doing that, then you can go back to breaking at the elbow a little bit more. But I think going back to what you were saying a couple of minutes ago, I think a massive error with is people like using the wrong equipment and using just using slightly wrong tacky, so they're having to squeeze the fuck out. Like if you're doing like say even 80% stone, like 80% of your max stone, well, guys, go out there and practice it and tag me and let me know how you got on. Think of whatever your max stone is. Go work at about 70-80% or something for whatever singles, doubles, triples, and just practice over the course. Say you did 5 sets of, say you can do a 160 stone. Go and do like say 6 doubles with a 110 or 120, and over the course of the sets, practice trying to keep your arms more relaxed on the pickup, and this kind of chest squeeze or like arm squeeze or bear hug or whatever. Just try and rely on the tacky a little bit more. Re-tacky each set and just challenge yourself in terms of skill. See how relaxed you can keep your arms on the pickup. And I think a lot of you will be quite surprised that you'll get to the point where you're like, fuck me, I don't even have to squeeze it all on the pickup there. It just feels almost like when you get it right and your equipment right, it just feels like a deadlift does. Like, do you feel like if you do a deadlift, do you feel it in your biceps? With deadlift with straps, you feel it in your biceps? No, you don't, because you just keep your arms are just pieces of string with hooks on the end that are just connecting you to the object. And if you think of that principle with stone and get your equipment right, so you're not squeezing the fuck out of it and wasting all your energy, and save your energy for the extension, then I suspect a lot of you will be. And also as well, like I see a lot of people failing like a stone pickup. And I think a lot of people fail the stone pickup because of equipment issue. Like if you feel like, say, you know, when you see someone fail and it's like the grip slips, their arms slip off it. Like I think a lot of the time, it's actually because you haven't got your tacky right. You're not trying to produce force with the hands, and you're relying too much on that kind of squeeze. So again, practice with that. So I credit Jake Wright. He's helped me a lot with changing my technique on stones. He called me out on a couple of things and said why. He saw me fail a couple of things and said, "Oh, if you go and do this, go and do that, go and try that, you'll be better." The other thing that he called me out on, Shane, was using the belt for heavy stones. So yeah, and getting away from the trying to hold the stone high, like we said earlier in this episode. And just embracing the principle that I like to think of, right? If you go to extend and you feel like, fuck me, the stone's slipping down, like it's slipping down my t-shirt or whatever, like it's probably slipping down to the position where you should be trying to hold it in.
Right, okay.
Like if it slips down to lowering your hip, it should start lowering the hip. And I think this is really more specific to under 90s, 80s, under 63 girls. and the bigger your torso or more mass you carry in your torso, the more body fat you carry in your torso, the more, I suppose, the comfier it'll be to hold it higher when you've got it in the lap. Like
I think that's where that comes from, isn't it? Is people watching Big Z or whatever who just plants it on top of his belly and it's on his chest, and then the under 90s think, "Oh, I need to pop it there," and it's like, well, you don't. It's a different ball game, really.
Yeah. And by the way, this isn't like fucking people. Some people get offended. This isn't like, say, me saying that, oh yeah, I'm calling you fat if you don't hold it low into the hips. No, it's not that. You get some big guys who are jacked, who've got like fucking like a short torso and like massive thick abs, who'll be able to create a shelf. Like, but someone like me, for instance, I feel like I've got quite a longish torso. Like even when I'm not lean, I'm like, my abs aren't bit, like it just slides down. It just slides down basically. And then when I get lean, it's just, since I stopped trying to hold it high and I embrace the basically just try and squeeze it into my hips, I try and squeeze it into my pelvis, it just feels fucking absolutely amazing. And also as well, it actually feels lighter. Like, it actually feels lighter. And I suppose it's a bit like what we're saying about the yoke last week. Do you remember me explaining about the yoke and saying, comparing about low bar versus high bar or whatever? And in theory, low bar, you're reducing the moment arm, so you have to produce less force to stabilize the same weight. It's actually the same principle. If you're holding a heavy fucking object higher on your torso, you're having to produce more force to move that object because you're having to stabilize a longer moment arm. Does that make sense? Whereas if you try and squeeze it in its lowest position where it feels really stable in the rack and then drive up, you'll find that most people will just feel that it feels so much stronger and easier to stand up with, let's say. And like we've said before on the podcast, like people who are scared, oh yeah, but what about the sacrifice in the height? That comes from the triple extension. So it doesn't matter whether you're starting with the fucking chin touching your chest, chin touching the stone if you're a big guy with a big torso, or whether it's your cock touching the fucking stone where you have it really, really low. If you're achieving that full extension, like, you should almost feel like when you're finishing a log cleat. Like, if you achieve that position, it doesn't really matter where the stone starts. It should end in the same position anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like doing. We used to do, because we couldn't get stones out all the time back in the day. It was a hassle. We used to do. It makes me laugh because we were actually practicing it without knowing we were practicing it. Is we used to do viper press on the log and focus on. Obviously, when you extend through the hip, you're trying to chuck the log vertically so that you get that, you don't have to press out as early. So we used to do light vipers for stone volume sometimes, me and Hixie, because if we couldn't be asked to get the stones out, we'd just be like, well, in our heads, I think me and Hicks are still the same, really. We clean the log almost identical to the stone load. So for us, it was a good way of drilling that triple extension, because we'd only use like an 80, 90 kilo log and just focus on trying to get it to lock out without even pressing. But it teaches you that vertical line that you can achieve with a stone. So I think that for me personally, log and stone are a great way to teach yourself like you say, if you don't know what it is, you don't know what you're doing. Like we didn't know we were doing triple extension back in the day, but just by trying to get that path, you will be achieving it.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely brilliant. I'll put it in people's programs where I'll put, like, say if the people who train at home or whatever, I'll put in like loading event, ideally stone or sandbag, focus and triple extension. If you can't be asked, you can do log cleans instead, or log one motions or whatever. And I think it's absolutely brilliant because, as you say, you're focusing on extending powerfully through the hips, knees, and ankles. But what you're doing that's quite unique is like you're wanting that vertical trajectory. So if you just forcing the hips into it, like the line's gonna be fucked and it's gonna go out in front or whatever. Whereas like we've said there with the stones, like it needs to be that, harness the hip power that a lot of strongmen have, but it's doing it in the like a vertical trajectory, if you will. So yeah, I think that's a great assistance exercise. Right, cool. That was good. Happy with that, Shane. Anything to add? By the way, I fucking people message, like clients message me and you and stuff, asking about like breaking stuff to for technical feedback and stuff like that. But like, what a lot of people don't realize is that how much that we fucking learn from this by, just like discussing it for half an hour. Like, and it just makes you think. And you said a couple of things that I thought, oh yeah, well, I'm going to try that. And yeah, that actually would work for this client I've got or whatever. And it's just fucking absolutely brilliant to, like, you just constantly learn, aren't you?
I think that's the thing, like, sometimes I get a bit of stick for it because obviously I do with the videos and stuff like that. My video putting out technique and stuff, you get a bit of stick for it, as if sometimes people think that I think I know everything and this and that. And like I was saying, literally just fucking 20 minutes ago, I was saying I've been practicing stones because I'm noticing I'm doing something wrong. And I've been doing this for fucking ages, you know what I mean? So it's all, you can never learn everything, especially in strongman. I'm still learning stuff. Every week I learn stuff still. And I think that it would be a bad thing if I wasn't, to be honest with you. It would show that I'm not really as passionate as I used to be, because I go in, I try stuff, I watch videos. Like I said to you as well, I watched your yoke video about stride length, and I've been blagging my head about why my yoke felt so shit. So I watched my old videos, I watched my videos that I was running in yours, and then I watched your video about stride length, and I compared my stride length, and I was like, I'm just striding too long. Came in, practiced it. Oh, it feels fucking loads better now. Again, if I was not bothered and just plodded through, I would still be doing the wrong stride length and building a base upon that. Whereas by analysing stuff and listening to you and other people, you can fix shit basically and keep getting better. So yeah,
that's it. Yeah, like if people look back at some of the, like that's why I don't mind going in depth on this about stuff that we've already covered. Like we've already talked about stones for an episode before, but we've learned so much since then that we've covered some completely different things that we probably did last time. I just think it's brilliant, and that's what we'll keep doing, is just keep improving.
Yeah, sometimes we'll contradict ourselves, I'm sure, but
yeah, exactly. Or you look at it like, say for instance, like you look at the twins. Joe did 160. What did he do? 160 to 52 inches using the belt loop trick the other day, and like. Yeah. Whereas now, like I've gone away from that, and like new people that I teach, like I don't teach them how to do it like that. Whereas they're comfortable doing that like that, and they don't want to change it now. They're like, well, what's the point? And they're doing like the a 5 stone run in 20 seconds. They're doing the heavy stones. They're doing one motions with it. Like, the point is, like, you can just there's so many different ways that you can do so, and just because like you're doing something and it may not be ideal in terms of, we're fucking rambling shit now anyway, but you get the point.
Yeah.
Right. Out, Shane.
See you, mate.
See you, mate.